Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. It is early Saturday morning, and in a few moments, you'll get to hear my thoughts and feelings on episode 5 of Ready to Love Miami. And for this review, I plan to talk about the episode, the connections, and give an overall rating. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. Episode 5 picks up where episode 4 left off. We as the viewing audience learn that Corvea got voted off, and I seen this coming a mile away. If you caught my review for last week's episode, I predicted that Corvea would get the axe simply because the guys didn't really like her. And they probably enjoy watching Marcia a little too much to get her off the show so soon. But for this week, the women have the power to eliminate, and tensions were pretty high. During the ladies' lounge, most of the women's nominate Blake and Demario for elimination. There's some back and forth with Jeffrey and Sue-Ann, simply because Jeffrey is leading the charge to get one of the men eliminated from the show, and Sue-Ann is speaking up against Jeffrey for being too emotionally attached to the process. I side with Sue-Ann in this because these folks barely know each other, and Jeffrey seems to take rejection very personal. I think this is Blake's third time in the bottom, and I'm almost certain that the next time Blake is in the bottom, he will get voted off without a second thought. But the ladies ultimately decide to get rid of Demario, which I wasn't surprised about. Now on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give this episode a solid 3. This episode was a little high on the drama and a little low on the substance. And if any of you out there haven't seen this week's episode yet, and you don't want to lose any brain cells while watching it, then I would advise you to treat this episode like a bill collector and avoid it. But let's get to these connections. During the episode, we get to see Blake and Sue-Ann. And the more I see them, the more I wonder if they're just on the show just to make it to the end. I don't really get any romantic vibes from them, but then again, they're adults, and whatever they want to have going on, that's between them. But I do feel that whenever Blake gets eliminated, Sue-Ann will either self-eliminate or she'll be the next woman to get eliminated. Then we see Cynthia and Anthony going on their date. They are vibing, and Cynthia mentions how good Anthony looks, but to me, Anthony is giving LJ vibes from last season. I don't think Cynthia has as strong of a connection with Anthony that she did with Andre, and that's within her right. I do think that Anthony is attracted to Cynthia, and what's not to like about her? She's down to earth, and she's thicker than week-old oatmeal. I would like to see how far their connection goes, but I also think that if Tony or Mark Anthony gave Cynthia the time of day, she would gladly forget about Anthony. We then see Jeffrey and Demario meet up to talk about the events of last episode, and to be honest, I see both sides of the issue. In Demario's mind, he simply doesn't want to date a woman who thinks it's okay to kiss a man who she simply doesn't know while trying to form a connection with him. Jeffrey in turn feels a certain type of way that Demario didn't chase after her like Mark Anthony did on the boat. So it's safe to say that Jeffrey may have pulled a Sabrina from Ready to Love Potomac and kissed Mark Anthony just to make Demario jealous and get him to fight for her. Well, Demario wasn't buying any of it, and I really believe that Demario felt some type of way that Jeffrey didn't kiss him first. But this connection is severed, and Jeffrey didn't waste her time bashing Demario at the women's lounge. As it stands, Jeffrey's connections are getting slimmer by the episode. Right now, her only connections are Blue and Mark Anthony, but those guys also have connections of their own. I think that Jeffrey will ultimately get eliminated a little further down the line, but we shall see. Now there's a group date with Marcia, Jeffrey, Blue, and Blake, and we know that this date is set up to get Blake and Jeffrey to talk about their issues. I was proud of Blake for spotting the BS a mile away and dodging it like an agent from the Matrix. And this is as Jeffrey is throwing shots at him, and Marcia is trying to stir the pot. Lost in all this mess was Blue, who was just there to get to know the ladies. As aesthetically pleasing as Marcia is, I don't see her forming a connection that's lasting with the guys, and for that, she'll likely be up for elimination soon. We then see a scene with Morgan and Tony, and my observations from last week were confirmed. Morgan used her connection with Lyndon to make Tony jealous, and Tony spent his time during this scene showing Morgan that he wants her. Morgan, in turn, told all the women the details of their date in the ladies' lounge, which was meant to mark her territory and sabotage Tony's other connections. I think that Tony and Morgan will make it to the finale, but I doubt that they will stay together past the reunion. And lastly, there's Janique and Blake. They go on a date, but Blake is giving off, "I'm here so I don't get fired" vibes. There's no romantic chemistry between the two of them, and there were a ton of awkward moments in this. Unless Blue strengthens his connection with Janique, I see her getting voted off sooner than later. But this marks the end of my review. If you have any questions or comments related to the review or the episode, feel free to leave them below in the comment section and I'll be replying to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.